Well, I'm really excited to be here and talk about some ideas I have around trends in how people work and what new workers' expectations are of technology. I've really, as Marco said, I've had a long career in technology. I've been in the industry for about 30 years. I started as a programmer. Actually, I started on the support phones, really listening to users and their complaints. Moved into being a programmer, and then I came to Microsoft about just over 24 years ago, and I've worked in all aspects of the company. I've worked the longest in the productivity space, and over time I feel like I've really noticed a lot of trends that have been changing since the early days of building desktop publishing software, spreadsheets, word processors, where really the goal of creating things was to take that information and archive it and put it in a place where you had access to it, but holding on to that information and keeping that information for yourself or for your peers was really your sense of power. And things have really been changing in the way people think about work. They aren't, a lot of times now the power is in the giving away of information, or the ready availability of information makes it so you don't have to archive it as much as you did before. The value is in the sharing. In fact, sometimes I talk about this as, a tweet on Twitter is not a tweet until it's tweeted, right? Until it's shared, it hasn't become a thing. When you really think about the way that technology has changed the use of photos and digital cameras, the photos explosion of something like sharing your photos on Facebook. It's not so much of archiving and keeping it and printing it and taking it and putting it in a scrapbook. It's the act of sharing is really the work and the work product. And so some of the trends that I've seen changing over the years are really this breakdown of the hierarchy in how information flows. So information being more networked, less hierarchical, less holding on to information going up the management chain and back down, really working in networks of people and groups of people, which has some great benefits in bringing in diversity of thinking and different access to technology by different kinds of people and different groups of people. And thinking about things, if you've studied some of our things in technology, something like GitHub, which is a programmer's tool for open source, where it embodies a lot of these concepts where you write code, you can start from someone else's code. They're not worried about the IP of holding on to it. They're happy to get the attribution of their code being used. And so as people build on top of other people's work, you're able to move much more quickly. And the work doesn't look as planned as the past. They're more adaptable to processes and more adaptable to different ways of working because you're focused more on the outcome of the work than the process of the work or who owns the work. And of course, the work is 24/7 global. I have a team in India who basically picks up when we let off in Redmond, and so we're getting 24-hour work on all of our technology as we move forward. So those kind of trends that I'm seeing is really changing the way I think about what we need to do going forward and providing tools and really creating intelligent work. Last time I was in India, I met a woman who owns a custom sari shop. And she has a global business, using technology in a way that lowers transaction costs, lowers discovery across the world, has turned her into a global business that she could never do before. And she's not using traditional tools. She uses her phone. She uses her phone and WhatsApp for almost her entire business. She uses Instagram to show her designs. She gets clients from there. I watched her work with a client over her phone who was in Ohio, having a custom sari made for a wedding. And from that interaction, she also received 3 or 4 other people that wanted to have custom saris made for her. So she's able to use the technology to create a global business from the beginning. She works with artisans on demand to create the beading and the artwork, and everything is very, very custom. So you start to think about these trends as the ability for people to, if there's tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people just like her making custom goods for individuals, Could that replace the mass market kind of retail environments that we have today? And could that become the new economy and the way we're working? You're certainly seeing that in India, the low cost of getting started and creating these businesses, and without PCs, really, with mobile technology. In fact, she has a PC, but she doesn't use it. She uses her phone for almost every single thing that she does and keeps track of it on her phone. Her PC is only used for her surveillance inside of her shop. She records, people that come in the shop for shoplifting, and that's really all she's using her PC for. So it's not that she couldn't use it, it's just that the immediacy of transacting with someone in the moment, being present with her customers when they come into the shop and recording it on that personal device has just revolutionized the way she's working and working in networks and working with technology. But it's not just the technology. The workers themselves are changing, and like emerging markets, the lowering the cost of transacting is also something that's interesting to the new emerging class we sometimes would call Gen Z. So people are familiar with millennials and the first digital natives and the people who like to share everything, what they ate for breakfast and what they are doing at lunchtime, and using the digital mediums to expose everything that they're thinking, everything they're doing. Those folks are upwards of, in their 30s now. They're becoming middle managers. They're no longer the up and coming. They're becoming the status quo. They're the people that are running companies. And so the up and coming generation, the Gen Z, is looking at their older siblings and thinking about the world a little differently, because they've grown up also digital native, but with an opportunity to look at the generation before them. And one of the things they've really noticed is they don't want to bring debt with them. They've seen their millennial siblings carrying huge amounts of debt. And so like emerging markets, they're looking for a lower cost of entry. They're looking more at trade schools. They're looking more at using their work product, the thing that they make, as their credential. Not so much a four-year institution credential as much as, here's what I made. Back to that programmer example, as a programmer working in GitHub, the code that you have written becomes your resume. People can look at that and see how good you are at your craft. The maker movement is alive and well in this market of Gen Zs. They're thinking about making things. Maybe it's the influence of Minecraft on them when they were younger, but they get pleasure out of building on top of other people's work and building things that are unique and personalized. They often have what I call a side hustle. It's not just one job. They have aspirations to do many different things and don't see themselves working traditionally at a company or a large corporation, especially not for 24 years, more like 2 or 3 years, and then moving on. Again, they're open to sharing, and the generation looks more uniform in terms of social attitudes in this generation across geolocations than it has in previous years. At least that's what we're finding in our research. So they're really thinking more of global citizens because of the ease of access and the ease of transacting. One young woman that I met, I had the pleasure of helping her to win an award with Glamour magazine. Office 365, we sponsored a women's conference and sponsored awards, and she won the Achieving Award. And she embodies some of these attitudes and the ways that people are thinking about technology and the way that people are thinking about how they're going to use their time and their skills to think about the world in a different way. Her company, Yasmin's company, Voyage, it sounds like Airbnb on the surface, but you're not going and visiting, using someone's home while they're away. You're actually going and staying with families in the cultural experience of those families and really immersing yourselves in the way that they're living and their customs and things they're doing. They're getting away from the standard, what we would call tourism, and really going deep and trying to understand these cultural differences between people and really take them in. She's using technology in different ways to do the matching. She's doing some amount of machine learning to try to match interests and personalities and people together so they can have these amazing experiences. And she is one of the people I'm hoping, and others like her, that are going to make a big difference in this world going forward. So what does this mean for me as someone building tools for work? or intelligent work, I think it means something for all businesses, is these 4 quadrants. The first is focus on the power of people networks. So in the past, when you worked individually at your desk creating your content, you were alone a lot of the time, and you created the document, you printed it, you shared it. Today we see emerging in the market working inside of communities as a big part. Of course, social networking, everyone understands that. That's your community and that's what you live in. But lots of tools and lots of products are making the transition from being transaction-based to more membership-based in the way that they think about what they're doing. Netflix is a famous example of going from a transaction to a membership service where people feel connected and cared for and part of that service. There's also a power in the network, not just in the service delivery, but in the relationships that you get working with those people. So if you think of something like LinkedIn, where people who are looking for jobs and people who are looking to hire people co-locate and help each other to find jobs. There's a company called Levo.com that takes us even a step further, where they've narrowed the market or narrowed the membership service to early stage career women. And what you provide to them as services or how you think about your product is different when you're really targeting a specific set of members in a network. And so you have a lot of opportunity to really tailor a custom way of thinking and a custom way of delivering when you really understand your customer. Ubiquitous digital experiences. That one is pretty obvious because I think everyone understands that if you have a phone, you have an experience on the phone, you also have experience in the web, and you have experience on the desktop. But there's more happening out there than just phones and PCs. There's all kinds of things to get ready for in terms of ubiquitous access to technology and data. There's Alexa showing us some of the things around having, I call it a headless device or a screenless device, where you have just voice interaction. We have virtual reality, augmented reality, new opportunities to provide capabilities. So companies need to think about how they're going to deliver their experiences, not in a client-side programming way of thinking about it, but in a service, dare I say, membership service, where you can have access to the data and information that you care about, no matter where you are on whatever device you are on. Also, these devices bring with them opportunities to expand the experience. I was talking earlier about how the mobile phone has replaced digital cameras because of the sharing of the phone and the videos on the phone. That's where everyone's doing things. So those capabilities and being there with you at the time that you're working on the experience is more critical to you than having all the power in the world available to you on your PC. It's not there available for you if the only thing you have in your pocket is your phone. So the device also gives you an opportunity to provide a unique kind of experience. I like to tell the team that when we build Office for the mobile phone, we need to move away from building miniature shrunk down dollhouse versions of Office on the phone, that we can really take advantage of a different way of working to help people communicate and share the information that is the work that they're doing, but not confine it to what we think of on the desktop as a document for printing or a document for archiving. And so that brings me to the next one, which is around atomic elements of information and interaction. So the way to think about this is, work used to happen. You sit at your desk, you bring up Word, you write your outline about what you're going to go do, and you sat there and you worked inside of Word, and then occasionally you might send a copy of that to someone for feedback. But the world doesn't work that way anymore. You're constantly out there gathering data, gathering information, talking to people before you're ready to archive it into a document or archive it and save it away. In fact, many times the work happens and it never gets archived. And so what are the tools or what are the things we can do to provide the power of what's in something like Excel or presentation tools that are something like PowerPoint, but break it down into smaller, more discrete units that you can share and interact with in real time with people wherever they are. And so one of the features we added in PowerPoint as an example is this ability called Tap, where you can while you're working in PowerPoint, it brings up other kinds of presentations across your enterprise that you are related to the presentation that you're doing. So it's using search, going out and finding that. But it doesn't just bring back the presentation for you, it also brings back understanding of the elements inside that presentation. So instead of opening up the slide, finding the chart, decomposing the slide yourself, you're able to see the decomposition of the elements and then reuse them in your presentation just by dragging and dropping. The same kind of element could be tweeted or texted or delivered in another form to someone else for feedback. And it could be more than just a Facebook post or a regular text message. The messages could have actions associated with them. They could have a data model, a user model, and an app model that makes them alive and connected and part of that overall service that you deliver to people so you can interact with this content. Understanding and breaking down documents into their atomic parts or to their entities and having understanding that goes with that is a huge part of being able to unlock the value that's in existing documents, but also make it easier for you to share your thoughts and your thinking in a richer way than just text or a photo or a video, where things as just simple things like imagine you're in Excel and Excel is a smart canvas that understands more than just numbers and text strings, but it actually knows elements. It knows the difference between gallons and meters, or it can transform an item, if you tag it as a gallon, easily into liters. We can eliminate all kinds of data mistakes if we understood the entities or the content in it. Another example would be, imagine that you wanted to have a spreadsheet listing the top 50 tech companies, their CEO and their company name, and you just title the two columns as tech company CEOs and company names, type in Satya Nadella, and automatically the spreadsheet would understand, oh, you mean tech CEOs, here's the company names, and it would just fill in the data for you automatically. And so there's so much opportunity if we can understand the elements that are inside documents and use different ways to share and transform those, and send someone the chart and let them manipulate the chart right inside the text message and send it back to you for either that solves the problem and the work is done and you move forward, or you can go ahead and continue and archive that. And so in order to do that, you need a connected, intelligent service that can understand all these different elements as we bring communication and content closer together. As you start seeing, documents were created to communicate. Text messaging, well, email was next. Email was for communicating smaller snippets. Text messaging is even smaller snippets. So how do we bring together real work, real rich content that has actions on it together with communication in a new way? So connected intelligence, moving from individual apps to sets of intelligent services. So we have been working really hard at Microsoft on artificial intelligence and thinking through how can you use knowledge of these elements, knowledge of people, knowledge of locations, knowledge of the type of device you're on to provide you new experiences. And everyone's well aware of things like Siri, Alexa, Cortana, which gives you kind of a command line, but natural language command line interface to the technology that's buried in there. Going forward, we're able to understand the elements of what the work is and what you're trying to get done, and can provide new experiences, both in terms of checking data types, but also giving you insights that you would not have seen in other ways, connecting you to people, connecting you to new ways of thinking about the work and the ways you can get it done. The big change here is in taking all four of these quadrants and bringing them together in a new way. You can really see, if you look at each one, the emergence of companies that are doing work in these areas. I talked about LinkedIn, I talked about Netflix, Adobe Creative Cloud is a great example of focusing on the power of people networks. They have gone and stopped being just tools for creatives or tools for designers to create work. They're serving the whole person. They're serving the whole network by creating a place for people to exchange their artwork and exchange their ideas and creating a marketplace, helping people find jobs. They're not just about the tools, they're also about helping people fulfill their whole life and create an environment. Ubiquitous experiences, you're starting to see those things emerging all over the place. The HoloLens stuff has been very exciting. There's other things happening that I think you start to see the opportunities to rethink user experiences in new ways, away from just PCs and phones. The atomic elements, I mean, the emergence of something like WeChat or WhatsApp is an interchange way and a model of working that's on top of structured and unstructured data that starts to show you those sorts of things. But what really brings it all together is bringing together those elements with a intelligent system or intelligent service back behind it, where you can bring together the cultural aspects of how people expect to work, the technology aspects of what is possible to connect people, and bringing those together to create new intelligent work. So really kind of unlocking the collective intelligence of humans, right? Gathering it up, machine learning over it, using machines to make sense out of the data and the information, and then using that machine learning and that collective intelligence to give us the promise or the opportunity for intelligent work. Thank you.